Mike Dawson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jamie Pluff,
Here.
Greg Dumonter, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr. He's running late. Martin Charlo, Glenn Two Teeth, Len is on Zoom, and Lanish Trahan. She's at language camp.
Carol, will you give us a prayer this morning?
Creator, today we just give thanks for this beautiful day, and we just ask you to watch over us as we take care of issues of our people. And we also ask you to pray over the loved ones who have recently been lost and be with them, and also be with our elders and our children and keep them safe. Komiate.
Thank you, Carol. And minutes from June 9th.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Jamie to approve the June 9 minutes with any corrections. Second by Greg. All in favor? Good. 7-4 and I abstain. We have an agenda today. Any additions to the agenda? Tom. Annie.
Okay.
Okay. Motion by Greg to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Tom. All in favor? We're unanimous. So we have one walk in.
Jesse Cahoon.
Jesse, come on up. And remember to turn your microphone on, please, and welcome this morning.
Thank you guys for your time this morning. I'm here to request permission to apply for a grant with the Tribal Council resolution for the Phase 2 Produce Prescription Pilot Program. This is through Indian Health Service, and it's for the funding award request for $213,240.
Any question?
It's gonna be used to augment our current weight management program for the nutrition component, in which we'll be able to support those participants with assistance with buying fresh foods and vegetables. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Jen. Sorry.
Motion by Carol to approve the pursuit of this grant. Do we have a resolution? Okay.
This was a last
Second.
minute ad, so I'm just putting it on the screen right now.
Thank you, Jen. So motion by Carol and second by Danny. Any other discussion? All in favor? We're unanimous. Go ahead, Carol.
What exactly is your position? Are you the,
Oh, I will be the PI. I'm the pharmacy director.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just never met you before.
No,
It
no.
was really nice meeting you.
Anything else for Jesse? Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Jen?
Can we, since we're early, can we move to Greg's bar and I'll get Melinda or Shauna down here for IPO?
Yours, real,
Quick.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I mentioned in the chairs meeting the other day it seemed to me like there's we need to put out some public information for our membership for Tawahi opportunities. So I'd like to make a motion to have Charcusta News do an informational article, at least 2 publications in the next 2 or 3 weeks to explain the Tawahi funding and opportunities for the tribal membership for their edification and opportunity.
Motion by Tom to publicize Tawahi to the public through Charcusta in the next 2 issues. Second by Greg. All in favor? We're unanimous. Morning, Greg.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Thanks for moving me up. I hope to keep us condensed this morning. So in my Monday morning meeting on June 8th, we talked a little bit about 4 topics that I'm bringing up today. The first is the extension of our contract, or pardon me, modification of our contract with Linda Putney. She's our external CPA. This is the request to increase the modification by $55,000. The budget director has been advised of the increase and the funds are available in the budget to accommodate that. On this screen here are the list of things that she accomplishes for us. She's in the process now. Once we get our audit information back, she'll begin the process of creating the proposal for the IDC for 2027. She is instrumental in getting us over the finish line, and I'm here to request the permission to modify her contract.
Questions? Carol?
What's just a modification?
The modification is for an increase of $55,000.
Is there a reason why we didn't go with Raven?
Yes. This is the extension of the contract in this is last year of Linda's contract, and per your suggestions, we put out a request for qualifications, and we did not hear back from any of the IPO registered, and Raven was on that list, and we wrote a letter directly to the Raven team, and they were not able to provide any of the qualifications of types of software they're comfortable using, any professional designations. They did not participate in that request for qualifications. And we're continuing to look at them and anybody on IPO for this, but they did not respond.
Thank you.
Tom?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Len.
Yeah, is there a time frame on this contract?
This contract will end at the end of August and will not extend into the new fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Motion by Tom to approve the modification to Linda Putney's contract. Go ahead, Danielle.
Greg, I guess she did the work last year for a set rate and we're giving her quite a large increase this year. It looks like $55,000 increase. Is the time frame expanded or is there more duties or she won't come back for a lower rate? I just don't, it's just a really big jump.
I can find out for you what her fiscal 25 contract was. This is her fiscal 26 engagement. But she does have an expanded scope of work as our funds under management and as our grant portfolio increases and as our CFA increases. She is integral in making sure that all of the different things, every federal expenditure must tie out, and she is integral in being the second set of eyes to our grant management team. Katie Miller's on that team, or leads that team. And she is integral to making sure that all of the expenses tie out. And our balance sheet is now almost $2.5 billion, and tying out all of those expenses is essential.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it just shows current contract 93. And
Yes.
she's going up to 148. So it's a $55,000 increase. So
Yep.
just want to make sure we justified that.
I have a motion. Do Do I have a second? Second by Greg to approve the modification to Linda Putney's contract. Any other discussion? All in favor? Len, are you with us?
Yeah, I support.
With unanimous.
So the next pair of resolutions are going to be for the Standing Arrow celebration and the Arlie Powwow funding. The first one here happens to be for the Standing Arrow Powwow. It's for $100,000. It is for the 2026 celebration. And there's a line here that expects council will have a recapitulation of all financial activities to be delivered before the end of September of 2026. This aligns with the expectation of them coming back in and telling the council how their experience was.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Len.
Did we get last year's report?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. I think that's important that we get those reports at least 30 days after the powwow is done. So we're not dragging this on and then having to go through all this every time we're going to approve the funding for the powwow. Because it's stated in their contract, right? I mean, isn't there a time frame that they need to have these reports in?
We've requested them be in, sir, on or before the end of the fiscal year for your review and approval. I know that Arlie has done that. I don't think that the Elmo Group has.
Okay. Greg, if you could reach out to them and request that we get those reports.
Yes, sir.
Carol.
I think it's in the MOU, and also I think we need to get it before that we give them any money.
Bing.
I beg your pardon?
You can ask Ruthie. She knows about those MOUs.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know what Lenny's talking about with this budgets, but a lot of times they're waiting on, they can't do the 30 days because a lot of times these vendors doesn't get all their paperwork to the committee after that 30 days. It takes a little bit longer for them to get their paperwork to them. So I'm glad it's to the fiscal year that they got that to get them in.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Jamie.
Is it both powwow committees that you haven't received the report back?
We have received for the past several years the Arlie review with a financial recap on time.
Okay.
So Carol's suggesting we put this on hold until we actually get the report.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve it, but the report needs to come in
Okay.
into council.
Motion by Carol to approve the resolution for the money for Standing Arrow. Need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Len. All in favor?
Okay.
We are unanimous pending the report.
Got it.
The next resolution is with the Arlie powwow.
That's correct.
Motion by Greg to approve. Second by Danielle. All in favor? You with us, Len?
I support.
We're unanimous. Greg, go ahead.
So, Carol, did I understand you to suggest that we try to get a different agreement in place with them so that it isn't quite so formal? Oh, okay. I misunderstood you. I was going to support that and be in favor of it, but in that case, I would like to suggest that we explore a more, a less formal agreement with the powwow committees. They're there to run powwows, not do reports. I understand the need for accountability and getting information back, but I don't know that we need to have such a formalized agreement with them as our helpers to get these celebrations going. So I would like to keep it as loose and friendly as possible.
We've had trouble with loose and friendly. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, there's been problems in the past, and that's why they are as they are. It's not because we're trying to make it difficult for people, but we're talking about the people's money, and we want them to report money that was not taken care of properly.
Go ahead, Greg.
Moving on to my last item here, the Department of Engineering and Water Resource Management, DEWR, has an existing relationship with a software package called Procore. Procore is the software in which they do their management of their projects. And as they have new projects coming online, they build in the work into Procore, and it is project management, it is data tracking, it is an integrated way to work with the contractors that work with their group. We have had a 5-year engagement with Procore, and it's time for our renewal with Procore. We've been through some negotiations with them over the past several months to negotiate the price down from where we'd been in the past. What I'm bringing forward to you is the request for renewal of the Procore software package. The Procore group would submit here, or Procore has submitted a proposal for another 5-year period. The fees and associated on an annual basis include invoice management, project management, financials, quality and control, as well as Procore Analytics to talk about some of the costs year over year that are built in. And this is a presentation to you for the renewal of the next 5 years of the contract. We've negotiated based on the tribe's strength and position to cut the annual costs about in half. They were about 125 or 130. We've negotiated to cut those costs in half. This is a year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year proposal. And then they've agreed to come out and do a relaunch of the program for Casey, Greg Wilson, and their teams. And that's part of this additional here, that 29.5. This is a 5-year contract.
Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So are there provisions under this agreement for an easy out or early termination? Because 5 years is a long time for this type of a tool. And it could very well be that something far superior to that is developed in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'd hate to see us locked in to something that we have a difficult time getting out if a better tool becomes available.
I appreciate and understand what you're saying. This is the renewal of an existing 5-year contract that they've already been in and have been using and ramping up. And as these projects come on, parenthetically, this is the same software system that large construction companies use. As a matter of fact, it's being used by 2 or 3 of the construction teams within technologies who have provided support and training directly to DEWR over the past 5 years. I'll look and see what the exit strategy is, what the exit information is, to your point, but they are currently the best in breed, and we've ruled out 2 or 3 other type of project management software and cost controlling software because this does it all for them. But I'll look for that answer for.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they're the right way to go for the next year or two. But I do begin to wonder what happens in years 3, 4, and 5 out there, depending on what else might become available. So as long as we maintain the flexibility to be able to move to a better tool should one become available, I have no problem with this at all.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
This is paid yearly.
That's correct. The 29,500 starts us off and gets them set up to do a integration with a reintegration and a relaunch. Oddly enough, the team at Dewar has changed meaningfully over the last 5 years. But the 29,000 starts that process, and then annually it's the 74,000, correct?
And all 35 units are getting used.
Correct.
And then the other interesting thing that struck me was how come the first year is 20 cents cheaper? Jamie, go ahead.
So 5 years ago, when you got this initial contract, was there a request for proposal put out?
5 years ago, when this was originally handled, it was handled through Clayton Matt in his role as the director over the natural resources group. We ruled out three or four different project management companies at the time, which would have been things like Smart Sheets, Monday, and a couple of others. And we did our back research. There's a handful of other tribes that are using this for water related implementation, as well as other municipalities that have used Procore for the construction management aspects.
Any other discussion? Motion by Greg to approve. Need a second. Second by Bing. All in favor? Glenn,
I support.
we're unanimous. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg, I just appreciate the staff's negotiation and cutting this contract in half. That's a significant decrease, so I appreciate that. And the staff that worked on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, Danny.
Mr. Chair, I did find the termination clause there, so I'll go ahead and email that to you, Greg.
What else, Greg?
I'm good, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Shauna Freelander is here for Melinda Charlo.
Morning, Sean.
And then after Shauna, we have a walk-in executive, and then we have Jordan in executive for a quick minute too, before we go to legal, since we're ahead of the schedule for a little bit. Shauna, go ahead and sit down and go ahead and turn your microphone on. Yeah, and your talk button. Yeah, the right button. There you go.
Is it going? Oh, hey, hell. Seeking council approval for a project-specific agreement with Montana Department of Transportation to construct a salt and sand shed in Ronan. And we don't have a map, but we're requesting maps be sent with these from now on. Sand and salt shed.
Where at, Sean?
Where safety of dams inside their compound, it's that one, I think for sure, we don't know for sure because they didn't send a map, but it's behind Boys and Girls Club. We're at safety of dams in their area.
Motion by Carol to approve the project-specific agreement with Montana Department of Transportation to construct a salt and sand shed in Ronan.
Yeah, it's all, yeah, several roads, yeah.
There you go.
It's going up forever. Yeah. Got the keys to the gate.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
Second by Tom. All in favor? We're unanimous. We
Good.
can build a sand and salt shed.
Yeah. Sand and salt shed.
Anything else? Thank you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Good day. You want to go into executive now, is what you're saying?
Yes, please.
We'll go out of regular into executive. Go ahead, Len.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make the motion to extend the medical leave for this tribal health employee till the end of July.
Second by Danny. All in favor? We're unanimous. Good luck, Laura. Greg.
Yeah, I would like to have tribal health come in and at the earliest convenience and inform us about what they do to help people get on disability. There is a powerful incentive for them to do that because of the eligibility that the individual gets once they're on disability. So we used to support that. I don't know if that's currently the case, but we need to look into that.
Thanks, Mel.
Can we go back into executive?
We'll go out of regular into executive. Go back into regular. Carol, you make the motion?
Motion that we move forward on Harmony's contract according to Jordan's recommendation.
To move forward with phase 2.
Yes.
Got a motion? Second by Danny. Any discussion? All in favor? We got 1, 2, 3. Bing. 4. Len?
I'm against.
I got 4, 4, and 5 against. And that Greg, Tom, Jamie, Bing, and Len. Against.
All right, well, go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Greg.
Jordan, before you leave, my opposition is not about the HR work. It is about the sole source approach to this for a non-tribal entity to provide services that I believe are available here in-house. Were you to come back with a procurement approach that advertises this, I would be in support of it.
Jamie?
I'll put a statement to the record, which is basically just what I just told Jordan, that I don't even think that we need a new contract with anybody. I think that we have the in-house capabilities to follow the roadmap that was provided by Crystal.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, Danny?
No, I just hope that we set a timeline then on the completion of this work if we're not gonna move forward with some outside help. Right now, they don't have an executive there to assist them, and our employees are suffering with the current grievance policy. Our employees are the ones that aren't getting the resolution that they need. So I was for this so that we could get some help for the department and hopefully get these policies corrected to better serve our associates.
Thank you, Danny. Amy?
Yeah, I just want to agree with that. Like, I would like to see the project roadmap because like I said, it has really good stuff, some concerns, some issues, suggestions and improvements, you know, for the personnel department, that they look at that and come back within a timeline to say, what have you done to improve on this, all of these suggestions?
Danny?
I guess my suggestion is that we have this, I mean, how long were we gonna give on this contract? It was gonna be a year. So these deliverables, we should be able to have this within a year. I think that's fair.
That is scheduled.
Thank you.
Jen?
Can we go with Janet and then a break? Cause I let Dan know that we were a little early.
Morning, Janet. Hannah? Good morning.
Can you turn your mic on?
We're here for the meat processing plant. So again, we've been working on construction since April of last year. And we have a couple of change orders that need approval for a contract modification. The 11th change order is remediation of groundwater infiltration that occurred this last spring. We were inundated with a lot of moisture, so we had to we need to install sump pumps and a drain system. So that's a change order at the cost of $76,113.31. And then FSIS, when they tried to come in and inspect the perimeter of the plant, it was so muddy still just a couple weeks ago that we had to install a gravel path so that they can walk around and inspect for rodents or whatever, any kind of issues that might occur there. So that cost about $5,000, I believe. It's 4,200 roughly. So I need a contract modification to adjust the total contract amount to $3,346,249.77, which is within our grant budget for construction. And I want to extend the contracted end date to July 1st. We are on target to have everything completed. The pen system is going in now and is being welded together. We processed 2 cows already, and we're going to be processing 2 hogs today. So it's pretty exciting. We're right now just custom exempt. But if we can meet all of the requirements of the FSIS inspection, we hope to be a USDA certified in 2.5 weeks. So then we're also working to transfer the plant and the related assets to the new corporation. But we need a business lease for the land to be able to do that because the plant right now is sitting on tribal land. And if we have a lease in place, then the responsibility for maintaining that property will go to the corporation. And then that will provide a corporate bail between the government and the corporation. So what I'm asking for is, let's see if I can move down here.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lynn.
So Janet, can you elaborate on the water issue? Is this going to be ongoing? Did we build on an artesian? Did we build on a wetland?
No, we researched everything. We did soil borings. We put the footings a foot above any evidence that we found in the soil borings of high groundwater. We are not in the intermittent stream area. We are not in a floodplain. We researched everything and passed all the NEPA review. What happened was we got so much moisture in March that we got 14 inches of snow that dumped in 2 days, and that all melted at once. It melted within 2 days. So it completely saturated that clay soil. And even though we had stormwater retention ponds, those ponds filled to the brim. And so that water had nowhere to go. It was just saturated in the soil. So the space that it found was the open crawl space. It came up from underneath the footings and went up into the crawl space. So what this mitigation plan does is it installs drain tile that leads to a sump pump that will be in the center of each cell. There are 10 cells underneath all of these units in the crawl spaces. And so then we'll add flowable fill to raise the bottom of the crawl space up a foot to cover the footings, to get to the top of the footings rather than the way it is now. It's just raw ground at the bottom of the footings with visqueen over it. So this sump pump system will then, if it happens again, and we're not sure it will because we think this was an anomaly, but to prevent it from happening again, we'll have a system in place to pump everything out away from the buildings, and it'll drain away and off of the site over time.
Annie?
Are those sumps gonna be manual sumps or they got the floats in there where they'll kick
They'll
on?
have the floats.
Okay.
Mhm. And we already have electricity in the crawl spaces, which is good, and a ventilation system in all of the crawl spaces, which is good too. And we're going to test for mold to make sure nothing's growing down there, but it shouldn't because the type of insulation we have is mold resistant and concrete. That's all that's down there, so.
Jamie, and then Greg.
So the total contract amount is increased. Is that covered in the grant? Like, does the grant have that to cover it? And does the grant also allow for the extension, like without any penalties or anything like
Right.
that?
Yes.
Greg.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. It's like a 2.3% increase in the total contract amount. So it's pretty insignificant, but did the original contract have a contingency, kind of a line item? It's typical for, especially when there's new construction going on, to have in the contract anywhere between a 5 and a 10% contingency set aside for unforeseen types of things. When it's new construction for a new facility, you're always going to run into those. Was there one in here? And is this over and above that, or is this because there wasn't one in there?
We had a clause that said the amount would change depending on change orders. So we just had a blanket statement. We didn't have a percentage added to this particular contract, but they came in under bid. They came in under the amount that we had already obligated for this project. So we went with this contractor because they were the lower bidder. And they've been really good. I mean, this was not their fault. This was no one's fault. I think this was an act of God.
Hence a contingency set aside for that, right?
It just
So
has a
I would just encourage on the next contract, particularly for new construction, when it's going to be, several $1 million, to have that set aside. That way it goes much smoother. The flexibility is there, and you don't have to come back to council for.
We did that with the Kicking Horse Sewer contract. We put a 50,000 contingency and that wasn't enough, unfortunately, but because of fuel prices. But yes, I learned this with this last contract. Thank you for pointing it out, though.
Tom.
Thank you, Mike. Morning, Janet. Good to see you. Being a Ronanite, I know what the groundwater does there. I know exactly the situation that at least the construction crew faced as they built a new house in my neighborhood and had the foundation dug out, shallow little foundation, and rain event happened and it just wouldn't go away. So it just sat there. So I had to pump it out and we built a house. And knowing how the lenses of clay are in that area, in that particular house, I have a sump pump in my house. It occurs all the time. It's just normal for Ronan. You put a sump pump in. if you didn't deal with your stormwater good, or your roof, where's your roof water go? So that new house, I did not put a sump pump in. I did the one pump out and it's been good ever since. But I got a good plan for the roof runoff and the driveway. It all gets spaced out. So I guess the question I have for this is you got a plan to discharge if it happens again. But what about the rest of the surface water? Where is it all going? Is it going to the same spot that your sump pump water is going to go?
So we have the two stormwater retention ponds for all of the impervious surface for all of the parking areas, the drive areas, the roofs. We have gutters. So all of that goes into those retention ponds, but because they were almost overflowing, we had to put outlets in them on the south side of those outlets. So yes, what happens is if they overflow, the water will go into the natural drainage that's on the south end of the property.
Okay, so the likelihood of this ever happening again is nearly 100%.
Well,
So my question, well, because I lived there and have experienced it, I could almost throw a rock to this place from my house. So the other limiting factor there, as I mentioned before, is that ditch needed to be put in a pipe, as in all the Ronan ditches, because that's a contributing factor to the high groundwater table, is these ditches that leak and they seep into, they're already a high saturated aquifer of Ronan. It's just a wet spot.
We did put it into pipe, by the way.
The whole thing?
Just the perimeter of our lease lot,
Yeah.
or our proposed
Wait,
lease.
that helps. So you said there's 10 cells. I don't understand what the size is. So you're talking about 10 sump pumps?
So yes, so the office building has one crawl space. And then the harvest unit and the freezer unit where you actually do the skinning and all of that, the carcass splitting, that has one cell. But as you get further into the cut and wrap and the carcass chilling unit and the ready to eat unit and the refrigerator freezer units, there are more cells depending on the weight of the unit, how much meat it has to store and handle at a time, and how much equipment. So they had to have more kind of like foundation piers with notches in them, so you could run all your utilities through those notches in the crawl space. So those are all separate cells. So there are 10 cells total, including the office building. And that's why we need 10 sump pumps.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, to me, it's like, wow, I got one little small sump pump for my 3,000 square foot home. And I just wonder why 10 sump pumps, your footprint's not that big.
23,000 square feet, I
Yeah.
believe, is what we have in buildings.
Okay.
They're all 12 by 58 feet units,
Okay.
and plus the office and.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You could connect the cells with a pipe at the bottom of them.
Well, you'd have to go through the concrete footings.
You
It's
would.
better not to. Because we're raising the bottom of the foundation, we're raising the bottom of the crawl space and covering the footings, so.
Got a motion by Greg,
Yep, to approve modification 6 to the Camus quick contracting.
second by Tom. All in favor? You with us, Len?
I support.
We're unanimous.
So, and extend the date. Okay, great. And then the other issue was the business lease. We're requesting a $1 a year business lease for the land, because, and we've seen precedent before where SNK Holding, at the time, they had a lease on the marina up in Poulsen, and it was actually, I think, for $0 a year, but I think we have to have a minimum amount in the lease language. But because the business is, it's going to take a few years to become profitable based on the business plan that Vern developed. We're asking for a 1-year lease for the first 5 years, and then and the rental rate would be revisited after 5 years, and we're asking you to waive the bond amount. Since it is a tribal corporation, it's a startup company.
Motion by Greg to approve a 1 year or a dollar a year lease for 5 years and to forego the bonding. Jamie?
I just have a question because I wasn't here at the beginning of this, Janet. So, the council appointed the board and then, like who runs it and who appointed that person? Did the council or did the board or?
Council hired Jake Welker as the plant manager. And then we just went through a new employment agreement. And as soon as everything transfers over, he's signed an agreement with the board now, with the corporation. So what we had to do to get everything started was we had to get people hired, the board appointed, and the plant manager hired. Then we hired a food safety and administrative coordinator. And then once those folks were in place, and they were tribal employees initially. And then we've since hired a butcher apprentice, a lead processor that'll handle like the sausages and meat sticks and things like that, and then a lead butcher. And those are all SQK employees. We came in, got a memo, an MOA approved by the council with the board to advance some funding to them so they could start payroll. And so Jake is transferring, I believe, this month over now to the corporation.
Okay, and so it'll be like they're a board and then they have to report to the council like we're
Yes.
shareholders. Okay.
And they're planning to request time on the agenda soon.
I got a question.
I got James and then you, Len.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question goes to the business lease on the property. I just kind of assumed that would have been done early on in the process. So I'm kind of wondering, why is it coming up now after we're already on the ground and going?
We requested it in November. We had to have the articles of incorporation completed first, and we had to start construction in order to meet the grant timeline. So the articles of incorporation were negotiated with the tribal council from December of 2024 until June of 2025. Then that went to the BIA. It took a couple months to get approved. Then it took a couple months to advertise for the board. And then, and then as soon as the board came on, they passed their minutes to request a no-cost business lease, essentially. But we went to the tribal lands department. They've been short-staffed in the area. And then they ordered an appraisal, and all of these things just take time, fortunately.
Go ahead, Len.
Janet, how many tribal members are working now, today, for the
Okay.
corporation?
I believe two. Tennille Flamand One-Salt is the food safety and administrative coordinator. All of the board members are tribal members, and they get paid a stipend for every meeting. And then the butcher apprentice is a tribal member. The lead butcher is Jay Arlant. Jake Welker is not a member, but he was again hired by the tribal council. So, and then the lead processor came from M&S Meats.
Okay, thank you, Janet.
Second by Tom to approve the lease. All in favor? We're unanimous.
Can I just clarify, it's a 25-year lease with an option to renew for 25 years, but that the rate would be revisited in 5 years? Can I just make sure that goes into the minutes? I thought you said 5. I didn't know. Sorry. I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much. Hope you have a good day.
Can we go into executive?
We will go out of regular into executive. And James and Mike are looking for direction. Don't know what the motion would be.
Mr. Chair, we would ask that the council vote on whether to pursue the combined use license, which seems to be an option that most council folks are somewhat interested in, or to stop any of these options altogether. What I'm hearing from Councilman Dumontier and Councilman Two Teeth. I think those are the two options that we're facing. And yeah, so that would be the combined use. Yeah.
Yeah, the combined use would be the grow operation.
Greg, go ahead.
Yep, so I'll make a motion that we not pursue this in favor of pursuing more better business pursuits.
Motion by Greg to stall this investigation into marijuana.
I'll second.
Second by Len. Go ahead, Jamie.
So what, the combined use, what job opportunities does that provide? What business opportunities does that provide for individual tribal members?
For individual tribal members, they would learn how to grow and control the environment that medical and recreational marijuana is grown in, including hemp, if we went down that road for him. And then we would, that plays into, we have the growers, we have the cultivators, the scientists, and then we have they would be under the umbrella of cultivators too, depending on how big the building would be. So if we had a grow facility that is 5,000 square foot, we would need probably between 12 or 15 cultivators and people working that building. Not including, marketing, branding in order to get our product out to the
So
general
approximately
public.
how many would it employ?
That would depend. You could do some dispensary sales clerks. You could do some people that make edibles. You could do the growth stuff. I mean, it just depends on what we actually get into if we want to utilize that license that the state made available to us. So it could be as big or as small as we can sustain.
Other questions? Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. For me, it's just the obvious. I appreciate Greg's comments about this is, kind of outside the box. There's other more feasible or realistic thing, but this is a huge market. This is a huge industry. And to think that we have tribal members that are managing retail stores and facilities. We have tribal members that are working in the industry. And one of our initiatives is to try to expand and think about all things of how we can work for jobs and business opportunities for our membership, whether it's the tribes owning it or individuals. And so I wouldn't shut the door on this at all. I would just maybe neck it down and necking it down to, as suggested, the Montana combined use license. I think that's appropriate for me. I mean, that's being more realistic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, the motion on the floor is to pause the investigation. Go ahead, James.
To go back to Jamie's question, so for each strain of recreational or medical that we have, that employs 2 to 3 employees. And that's the grower, the cultivator, the packaging person. So a good size grow facility has between, 4 to 6 or 8 to 12 strains. So depending on what type of strain we wanted to go down, strains, we get into the science part of it, sativa, indica, combined usage and stuff like that, gummy bears, all of that. That would possibly employ, if we went 6, we could go 18 employees with 2 scientists or 2 growers to break it down on board.
Go ahead, Jamie.
And then just if we did pursue it, what timeline are we looking at to actually get a facility and get this going?
That is a great question. Depending on shipping and freight to get here, what most people use are called, I have them in my notes from my visits, are DPS panels. So DPS panels are pretty much the things that go inside refrigerators. Have you guys, a walk-in refrigerator, it looks like there's laminate on the side, and those are about 5 inches thick, and that's what everyone uses, that's industry standard to put up inside walls. Now, you can put that up anywhere inside a framed building already and have a grow operation ready to go in about 90 days. And from seed, I guess from plant to table, it's kind of the language they use in the marijuana. It's plant to table. As soon as it's planted to table or smokable edibles is about 8 months. And that goes through, that's, you know, if we wanted to do like special packaging, special promotions, where are we getting this at? You know, everything has to be narrowed down and, you know, 8 months.
That's, location would be an interesting concept too. Very important to pick a good location, especially if this is gonna be grow and dispensary combined, you know, doing multifaceted components of this. But location would be the first thing, right? And then getting the seeds going and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, the motion on the floor is to pause all investigation into the marijuana industry at this time. We have a motion by Greg and a second by Len. All in favor of pausing the investigation into the marijuana? Greg? Len?
Yes, I support.
Any other support here? I have 2-4. Greg and Len support the motion. And 7 opposed is in Tom, James, Jamie, Danny, Bing, Carol, myself. So the motion.
Doesn't mean I'm a pot.
All right, Mr. Chair, we'd ask you to take a vote on pursuing combined use operations and reporting back to the council with their findings.
Say that again, Mike.
We'd ask the council to vote on directing us to pursue combined use operations and options and then report back to council. No, not today. No, it'd be some time before we have more information to. Oh,
No, he does want us to vote on the choices and how they continue is what he's asking us to do. Is that all right? Yeah. Motion by Tom and second by James to follow the motion Mike put forward. To look at the combined use. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, and opposed? Greg? And Len, you're opposed, right?
Yes.
And so Greg and Len opposed. So pursue the combined use.
all right. Thank you, council. Thanks for your input.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Jen?
Since we are ahead of schedule, I have some NRD here to present a couple of things that will be quick before lunch, so then we'll be able to leave earlier this afternoon.
Looks like Scott's first. Morning, Scott. Microphone.
I hit the wrong side. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Tribal Council. Yeah, today I have a recommendation to award a construction contract for Dixon Homesite Streets Reconstruction Project. The project was bid and we had a really good turnout for bidders, a wide range of bids, some below and some above the engineer's estimate. And the lowest bidder was kind of alarmingly low. We took a little time to do some comparisons and evaluations of each bid item that they bid on, and we determined that Well, the difference between the low bid and the next low bid was almost $650,000, which would raises some alarm. And based on the previous experience with the low bidder, we are recommending awarding to the next lowest bidder, partly because of the all the potential for change orders is one thing, and other concerns. How do I go down on? Okay.
I'm just wondering if were any of the bidders Indian preference?
Yeah, the only Indian preference bid was the highest bid, which was about 40% higher than, I think 40% higher than the engineer's estimate even. I can,
And I guess, what is the Indian preference? I mean, I thought that they were able to match within, how does that work?
if they're in 10% of the low bid.
And were they offered that?
No. Bjorn Johnson was the lowest bid that we are not recommending bid to.
Good, Carol.
Always come in for modifications and everything else, and why wouldn't you do that if this gentleman, or are you just not comfortable with his work?
Yeah. The experience we had with him last year was almost the same type of thing where if we would, he was pretty low on several bid items compared to the other bidders last time. And there was a modification, a change order that would have put him up right close to the others. And it was because of something that we couldn't really, it was a change in quantities and stuff. But yeah, there was actually 10 bid items that he was significantly lower than all the other bidders. So that raised a lot of concern. Not to say that there won't be any change orders, but we're more confident that there won't be any change orders that are not justified being asked for on the second lowest bidder. No, just because it's small.
Scott, my question is, I'm curious, as I'm reading through some of the work, I'm really excited for the roads to get done. But I'm like super excited for this to happen. But when you come in where you go across the tracks, those old abandoned tracks that are there, are we putting asphalt over the tracks too at this time, or where does this construction begin? Does it begin
No.
on that side of the tracks, or?
It'll replace the culverts at the highway intersections there and do the approaches into there. But it'll stay back 25 feet from the railroad tracks actually, because of just for this project, it was we wouldn't have to get any railroad permits and stuff. So at this time, we're staying back from the tracks, but we could go back and do that at another time. So we're doing from the highway, replacing some culverts and doing the approach, staying back 25 feet from the railroad tracks on either side, and then continuing on.
Go ahead, James.
So you're going down all the streets and everything?
Yep, it'll do all the streets. But this project is a two-season construction. So it'll start this summer and finish by September of next year.
Now, are you putting more speed bumps in? Or are you taking the ones that are there
Well, I think the plan is to take those speed bumps out.
just by her house though?
We can't pop willies on the speed bumps or
Yeah.
without the speed bumps. You need them for, like, oh, they got a skate park now, so it's fine.
Other questions? Motion by Danielle to approve the Knife River is who you're
Yeah,
recommending?
recommend award to Knife River Corporation for the contract to Dixon Homesite Streets Reconstruction Project 26-2009 in the amount of $2,754,475.40.
So I got a motion by Danielle. James?
Yeah.
Second by James. Go ahead with your question.
So when you, my mind is going to, when it rains and stuff, are gonna be paying attention to how that water is evacuating from the community, or what's that gonna look like?
Yeah, there's a stormwater plan that needs to be submitted for and approved during the construction. That'll be approved ahead of time before construction by me.
Any other questions? All in favor? Five, Carol? 6, 7, 4. Jamie abstains and I am opposed.
My comment for the record is, I guess I just, I need to understand the Indian preference better. I understand it's 10%, but yet we can choose the next highest bidder that's almost 30%. So I'm abstaining because I need to understand that better, why why the Indian preference couldn't be offered to go to the lower bid.
Anything else for Scott? Greg?
I just wanted to say, Jamie, I think that's an excellent policy recommendation that needs to go into the Indian preference along with a lot of the others. But the way it's currently set up, it's pretty toothless.
But why can they choose the next highest?
We haven't set it up that way.
Is it that if they're within, they can come down to the 10%, they can match the 10%? Rabine? It's on the right side.
Just, Mr. Chair,
Good, Carol.
what the discussion's been in the past is if we allowed the tribal member at the bottom make the bid at the top, eventually people would stop bidding because the tribal member's gonna get it. So that's why they put the 10% in there, if I remember right.
We can visit that policy at another time. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
Good morning, Greg.
I had one more,
Okay,
one more
go ahead,
resolution to, see if we would pass. It's the resolution to support the construction of the Dixon Homesite Streets Reconstruction Project. And this one is a federal highways, requirement to get this resolution passed. Just supporting the, even though your recommended award, this resolution is, has some language in there about the code of federal regulations and following the tribal transportation program policies.
So we need a resolution going along with the fixing the streets. Motion by Carol. Second by Tom. All in favor? We have 8-4 and Jamie abstained. Oh, okay, 7-4 and Jamie abstains and Bing abstains. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Come on up, Greg. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for seeing me right after Scott. Well, let's see here. So, yeah, my issue presenting to council starts on page 46 of the packet. And the issue is SKMM Task Order 23-104-316 that is work associated with installing buried MVP primary power across Crow Dam up to another power pole up on top of the hill. This work was planned with MVP during the construction of the Crow Dam spillway. We had provisions in the contract for some work provisions underneath the bridge to allow for support hangers to be installed and then rigid metal conduit installed underneath the bridge. The work that we wanted to do in-house was to get the buried conduit along the dam connected to the conduit underneath the bridge and then extending up the hill. We ran into some questions in working with MVP that we couldn't find time to talk through the details, so it basically was on hiatus. Earlier this spring, we found out that MVP had had some power outages that could have been reduced if we had this work, had the power installed along the dam. And so in talking with MVP, we found that we were resource limited for our staff to do the work, which led to bringing forward discussions with SKMM to help us work with MVP to get the power across the dam. So the packet includes the task order with SKMM to install the power, and this contractor, according to the task order, is through Smith Paving, which is a tribal preference contractor. So our request today is to approve this task order.
Questions? Motion by Carol to approve task order 23-104-316. Second by Danielle. All in favor? You with us, Len?
Yes, I support.
We're unanimous. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you very much, council. Have a good day.
And the last one I have up is Rich Jansen, and he's on Zoom. I don't know if you guys want to wait till this afternoon or go with this.
Rich, how long is your discussion?
Mr. Chair, it shouldn't take too long. Should be done by noon.
7 minutes? Okay.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I have 12 minutes, but
I don't know if did you need executive, Rich?
I would like it. I would like it just because it has to do with naming of the building.
We will go out of regular into. We have a request for a change of duty of 3 individuals for the Harley Powell,
And Quinnell knew it was by supervisor approver.
motion by Danielle. Second by Tom. It's for Quinnell. Who is it? Quinnell, Carlin, and Lita. 3 with supervisor approval. So second by Tom. All in favor? I think we're unanimous there. And we will recess till 1 o'clock. Carol, are you going to the playground? He wanted us there quarter after, I think is what Tom said.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of Tribal Council. Brian Hoganson here with the Division of Engineering and Water Resources. And our colleague Seth Makepeace should be joining us shortly. I think he's upstairs with legal, but he'll be down here shortly. But we're just back to discuss and seek resolution and approval of the proposed Hot Springs Camas groundwater management area. And here joining me today is Adam Johnson, our hydrogeologist for our group, and Shane Hendrickson, our water management and planning program manager. And just to kind of tee this one up, we have been working on this project for quite some time to fully try to understand that resource out there in Hot Springs associated with the hot water system there. And we recently engaged with the SQCC on May 6th and came into Tribal Council for the first round of these discussions May 7th. Engaged with the CUNY Culture Committee on May 13th. And having kind of gathered information from those discussions, we're back to seek final approval here. So I'll just hand it off to Adam to kind of go through a little bit and provide a summary of this project. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, good afternoon. As Brian said, we're here to meet with you a second time regarding the proposed Camas groundwater management area. As Brian also mentioned, we were here on May 7th to provide an informational presentation, and the goal of this meeting is to seek approval for the submittal of the petition to the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board. So the Division of Engineering and Water Resources completed a study in the Hot Springs area designed to help protect tribal water rights, unique geothermal resources. We looked at subsurface temperatures, groundwater temperatures. We looked at water quality conditions, and we looked at groundwater levels as well. And so, as I mentioned, the purpose here would be to request formal approval to submit the petition document to the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board. As Brian mentioned, we did discuss details with both of the culture committees. I talked about this a little bit last time, just wanted to reiterate the fact that the geothermal resource is pretty limited, both in terms of flow rates, volumes, and water quantity, as well as groundwater temperature. There is a hot spring resource there, but it's limited in geographical extent. So I talked about this in more detail last time too, but there's information suggesting that local water use is increasing, and also, of course, climate change is happening all around us, and those represent threats to the tribal water rights and groundwater resources in that area. And here's a couple maps that show the boundary for the proposed area that we ultimately developed based on the data that we collected information that was already in existence. So it's about just under 250 acres. You can see there on the lower right, so a map of the town showing where a well would intersect hot geothermal water inside of that zone. And then outside of that area would be generally, if you drilled a well there, you get cool or cold water with different kind of water quality and lower water pressure. And just to briefly describe the remedy or the proposed solution of what the proposed groundwater management area would accomplish. Future appropriations or uses of water would be prohibited by existing and new users within that zone. Our office would seek to try to document flow rates and volumes for the hot water wells into the future to ensure to try to ensure that overuse doesn't occur. And last time we were here, there were questions about future uses of tribal water rights. So this table was presented before, but kept it in for this time as well. The tribes would be subject to the same limitations as other users would be. However, our office and other programs are submitting geothermal uses of tribal water that are already existing. You can see those here. And so there could potentially be opportunities to use these water rights for the hot water system into the future. And those would have a priority date that's the same as the Hellgate Treaty. So the next steps would be that we would seek your vote on approval to submit this petition document. And we've prepared a draft cover letter and a resolution. I put the text of those on this page. It's a little bit small, but further down is the complete letter shown here. And then the draft resolution is shown here.
Go ahead, Carol.
Green, if overuse of an aquifer will deplete it, is that why there's limitations?
I would say yes, generally, and also there's just not because of the low flow rate, there's not a possibility. There's a limit to the yield that can be pumped from the aquifer without causing springs to dry up and wells to go dry. I think so, yeah.
Good afternoon. So a long time ago when Mr. Obenek developed the Big Medicine well, we pumped that well at 90 gallons a minute, which is not a great volume. And we dried up the Cornhole and Bathhouse Springs. And we started to draw down all the wells in the area. The Cornhole well next to the foot baths went non-artesian and things of that nature. So Adam nailed it. What'll happen is it'll just, we'll get irrecoverable losses, mining of the water. And then that'll also affect the temperature probably. Yeah.
The bathhouse with my mom, and I used to have to walk over to the cornhole and check on people all the time.
Greg.
Could you summarize the discussion with the two elders groups?
I can try. There were quite a number of questions related to, especially up in Elmo, about. Well, one of them was why don't we create a groundwater management area for the Flathead Indian Reservation? There was some discussion about that. There were questions about water rights related to the table that I showed there as well. And down in Mission, I think there were some questions as well, and there was some concern at one point about having to make a decision a quick decision when that maybe wasn't the traditional way of doing things, getting a presentation by a tribal agency for half an hour and then having to provide consent right then. I can't remember if Brian mentioned it, but Casey and some others went back to Mission and met again with the culture committee, and I wasn't there, but I understand that the concern was resolved. Anyone else here is free to add to what I said about discussions.
Yeah, I just might add real quick on the SQCC discussion. There was, I think the hesitancy there was about using science and mixing that with cultural values. They didn't appreciate the poking and prodding, if you will, of the environment. It's like enough studying is enough. The water's hot because the creator made it that way. So why the need for all of the monitoring and studying and just we have enough. So I think there was some hesitancy of mixing science with the cultural aspect. And then we came back almost a month later and they had talked through that and were very supportive of the idea of protecting the thermal values there. We couldn't even do a presentation. They just said we're unanimously support.
I think just to add to what Shane said, the traditional or cultural perspective is sometimes hard to reconcile with, say, the water compact and the UAMO language that, for the submittal of an area like this, you have to define what its boundary is. And so it's challenging to do that without doing a study and gathering data.
Just, Adam mentioned it, but just to sort of underscore it, we've submitted to the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board our first batch of tribal registrations, all due in September. We submitted tribal community wells, commercial and institutional uses, for example, the water for this building, but we also submitted for the geothermal wells in the Camas geothermal area, which he had, just to point that out, that the tribes, whatever water is available, the tribes will be senior in priority to access it once those are registered. And so it's a limited resource, but the tribes, through the registration, preserve their sort of seniority for access to that water. How that actually plays out at the end, and there would be beneficiaries and people who have to cut back on their water use, but tribes are in first pole position due to the registrations. Yeah.
What else we need? Motion to approve the resolution. Second, motion by Tom, second by Greg to approve the resolution to go forward with the water management geothermal groundwater protection area. I got motion by Tom, second by Greg, all in favor? We're unanimous. Danielle?
Yes, with doing this, I know that I talked to Bink and Rose and they've had some issues with their water. They've had to shut down shop there at Big Medicine. Will this help protect their interests and our tribal interests out there then? Or is there, I guess, it sounds like when Alameda's is pulling water, then they end up with no water. Is there something that gives them that priority over Alameda's, or what's the best direction to give them?
Yeah, we're tracking that one. We do communicate with Rose quite a bit on that one. That specifically the newer well there that you mentioned, it does seem to have some impacts up there, and they're, as of now, they're kind of working neighbor to neighbor to kind of halt the use of the new well there, if it is seen to be impacting up on the hill up at Big Medicine. Moving forward, that would be something that would be done through the board, and it's kind of yet to be seen what that would look like on the formal side of things. But for the meantime, just kind of neighbor to neighbor is how we've been kind of approaching that one out there for the time being. And there's been some participation on both sides on that one so far. Yeah.
Just so the council's aware of how this moves forward, it's pretty well spelled out in the ordinance. The group will submit the petition to the board, goes directly to the office of the engineer. They have 180 days to review it for completeness and application. And they will write a staff report on what they understand the technical basis for this. So it goes back to the science. They'll write a technical report on that for the board to review, and they have a clock. So if there's a deficiency, we have 90 days to correct the petition, but they're at their office and they may hire groundwater consultants. That's at their discretion. They'll write a technical report and transmit it to the board. And then that engages a public process by rule in the ordinance. It has to be public noticed to all the affected water users in the Camas geothermal area. At their discretion, they'll hold a public meeting and reach out to the public. And then we, and Adam referenced that, we proposed a remedy, a solution, which is to close the area to new development, just hands off, no more development. But the board actually is the group that has the authority to define the ultimate remedy. The tribes have an appeal process, but I mean, they can designate either a temporary or a permanent groundwater management area. And they can condition our application or petition to, for example, require long-term monitoring or something else. I don't know, measurement of our water use or all water use. But when we hand the petition over, we sort of step off the driver's seat and it moves through them as the permit authority on the reservation. And we'll, in time, in less than a year, engage a public process. We've been warning this is coming, and they're ready for it. So we hope they provide, their new engineer is very, very good and trying to, move this along. So, but that's where it lands now as far as the petition goes. Yeah. So kind of has a life of its own now, but we'll start to hear about it in the public world because the board has, they have a sunshine law. Everything they do has to be disclosed to the public. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how does that play against, how do they integrate in our senior rights with their rulemaking or their remedies? The board.
Then it becomes an order of priority date, really. But the existing uses have their existing uses. They would be allowed in the GMA. But then if the tribes with a senior priority date are not able to fulfill their water right, we would be able to seek to call or enforce against the junior water right and ask them to reduce water use. So that would be the ultimate recourse.
Would that be something they would just automatically do in the course of the remedy for this petition?
They could. I don't know the answer to that, but it would, whatever it would be order of priority. Yeah. Yeah. Unless some special stipulation is set aside. They're getting calls about the Camas area also. So it's kind of seems to be hot topic right at the moment. Yeah. The other topic I think much of the council is aware of is we have we have a Jocko Valley groundwater management area fundamentally 90% developed. We would need to dust that off and work on it. Also, your legal department has asked us to try to understand what a reservation-wide groundwater management area would look like. And that's not a, you can't turn on a dime and answer that question. So I don't know if they've come into you with that or if they've just made a technical request to do or water rights office. But what I've been thinking about, it started off with me and I'm growing it into this group, but is if we wanted to pursue a Jocko groundwater GMA, which we could get ready in some pretty expeditious fashion at this point, how would it fit into a chapter framework of a whole reservation or part of a reservation ground? You know, now that we've been asked this question, how does it fit into a larger framework? So over the next course of the next month or two, we'll think about that. But I just wanted, this all started with the Jocko Valley. We thought Camas was a better one to start with because it's simpler. The Jocko Valley is very complicated and very, it just brings in a few thousand people rather than less than 100, you know, and so, but so we're trying to understand this new request to think about and how a Jocko Valley, how we would orchestrate something like that, frankly. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we did have some discussion with that and it's, in my opinion, desperately needed, you know, here and across our entire Aboriginal territory. I mean, pulling groundwater is, you know, it's wells are drying up, aquifers are getting lower, shallower, and it's just it's putting to direct conflict all over. So the sooner we understand it and the sooner we can protect our groundwater resources and the uses that already exist, the better off we'll be. So it's inevitable. It's better to do it now and start on that research, have those answers than wait another 10 years. But anyway, there's some struggles across the state under this particular issue, and I want to make sure that we have a golden opportunity to protect our resources and our streams. But yeah, you don't really think about it because it's below the grade. You don't see it, but it's happening. You know, it's the exact same as surface water, and it's just we have to do something.
And if I may speak a bit to that, we have a really strong groundwater network that Seth has built for years and Adam has continued to build. But if you all have any areas that you're interested in knowing more about groundwater, or have potential wells that you have in mind to be monitored, we're able to go out and roll that into our monitoring network. That's pretty strong already, but we could always build out more. So keep that in mind, please.
Last thing, since we have you in executive session on a pretty careful topic. This is the same topic. I just wanted the council to understand, I think.
but we're not in executive.
Oh, okay, that's okay. But I think we can prepare really strong stories for the watersheds that have streams at the outlet where the tribes have in-stream flows. Where we struggle is like the perimeter of Flathead Lake or Valley View. Some of these off watershed areas are harder to develop the story for. And that's kind of where my mind is trying to figure out right now. Those often are the highest development areas too. So, and the most fragile groundwaters. But just bring that up because that's actually the conundrum in my mind is those off stream areas. Yeah.
Any other questions? I know the other area I'm really interested in is Camas Prairie, but yeah.
Yes. Work Camas Prairie, yeah. Yeah. If you have any candidates wells out there that we could start monitoring, we'd be happy to run out there and do that.
Cool.
For sure. Yeah.
Probably able to find several.
Yeah, great. This guy will be happy.
Well, we got the petition, or not the petition, the resolution for the petition. Is that it? Cool. Thank you all.
Whisper's walking in right now.
You say she's logging in right now? Oh, walking in. Afternoon.
Perhaps I will start with our capital equipment purchase request for the Bison Range. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for getting us in at a different time. I have been trying to find a way to buy a bale bed for the Bison Range for a couple of years. We've submitted for the BIA end of year funds and Alex has been asking for one for a couple of years. We need it to move hay, pick up dead bison, things like that out there. It's a general ranch type of equipment. And then the zero turn mowers that we have are from Fish and Wildlife Service. We patched them up and limped them along, but we need another new one to mow down at the day use area. We're going to utilize some of our deferred maintenance funds. And I apologize that I've gotten so close to the end of purchasing for capital, but we would get right on that if we're approved.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, Whisper, did you look at getting a electric zero turn mower?
We didn't look into that, but we can ask about it.
I own one.
Yeah, a zero turn? Okay. I'll
That's the damn lawnmower I've ever owned. It's amazing.
And bring it. I will remember to.
I'm mowing 2 city blocks. So
I believe that.
it's similar, yeah. You just get more batteries is all. But yeah, maintenance free, man.
Okay.
It's the way to go.
Look into that with them.
Super sensitive too. It's hard to break a blade or shear a pin or anything. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's Ego.
Ego's the brand name?
Yep.
Okay.
Zero turn. And they're quick.
That sounds like a haying operation, Tom.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's, I used to have a traditional push lawnmower and then I had a riding lawnmower. But Whisper knows the houses I mow. And I'm mowing all of them now. But going to that electric, because my neighbor had a zero turn, different brand, not John Deere. But I'd watch her, she's pretty quick. But this electric one is lightning fast. It is amazing. So
You have some used capacity with her.
oh, I do, yeah.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I'll sell you mine, I'll get a new one.
Hey, okay, well, we'll have to work that through property and supply.
Entertain a motion here. Motion by James to move forward with the capital purchase. Second by Tom, all in favor? We're unanimous.
Thank you. And now the next topic, which I will share my screen, is the SKQ annual submittal presentation. We were on a short notice before in the spring, so we weren't able to do our presentation. And so we're going to do that now because it is the season for people out in the field. Can you see my PowerPoint? No? Okay. I have not shared it properly yet. Stop share and then share?
Yes.
And then share it again. Great. I did upload the final document to our shared Teams drive. There were very few differences from the first draft to this final draft, and we'll go over some of those changes as we go through our presentation. Because it's a field season, I don't have every person, every program here, but Carrie and Craig are two of the bigger programs funded out of SKQ mitigation funding. For people who aren't aware, the submittal is our reporting document that we use to communicate with BIA and FERC on the funds that are utilized for formerly Kerr Dam damages, but now is our dam, SKQ Dam. So we coordinate with our partners at SKQ to complete the document. But when we submit for 2026, we are reporting on the 2025 report, so last year's report, and projecting forward what we'll be doing next year for 2027. So first up is our annual budget. This is how the budget looks. We did not receive IDC, the new approved BIA IDC rate, until late. So this table does look different than the first one I uploaded for you to preview. And as you're probably aware, health insurance costs have started to rise as well. So that reflects some increase in health insurance costs as well as IDC and the new rate. The payment by EKI annually is less than the total that we're using, but over time we have amassed a surplus in our escrow account. And I've been in contact with legal to determine what has to happen with that fund by the end of 2035, and that has to be zeroed out. So we're utilizing parts of our escrow fund, in order to supplement this account. This year it was a little more sketchy because of all the discussions about funding for some of our other programs. So there was some stress there, but we are online with using that money as well as what our regular budget is. We also don't use the money all every year. The benefit of this funding, because it is mitigation dollars and comes to the tribe in a different way, is that we have used it as leverage for other funding sources over time. So some of the projects that we have here, we might be able to offset with a grant here or there. And so we don't always use all of this budget. There's also two separate budgets, which is there's a separate fisheries and wildlife budget that's used for mitigation, and those funds were a set amount and they just go down over time. The staff that manage those, Art and Craig, are making sure that those last until 2035, but are also expended by that. A couple of the comments from the consultation group. The only comments that came in were from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we have EKI as a consultant, Fish, Wildlife and Parks, BIA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So all of those we have a established group. They all get the draft after you approve it, and then they give comments back. We generally don't get a lot of comments. We've been doing this for a long time, but our new BIA hydropower regional manager is good at paying attention. So he's always looking and trying to make things jive in his head. So we appreciate Steve Lewis for what he does as far as actually reading the document. We appreciate his comments. So a couple that he had that I just wanted to bring up was one that he wanted to make sure we updated our IDC and our budgets, which I noted that we did. And previously I did not have them listed in the document in the introduction as a member of our consultation group. In the past, we had not, we were always sending it to them, but they weren't making a lot of comments. And then I would send the final to Steve, and then he would ask me when he could make comments or make any comments. And I said, you can't, it's over, this is it. And so in order to keep that relationship in a good way and to not have that kind of conflict and tension, we allowed him to make comments ahead of time, and it's worked out. We haven't had any negatives because of that yet. The other question that he asked that we did have to address was asked how the mitigation plans that we're working with are associated with Hungry Horse Dam. As you can see there, our fisheries mitigation plan for losses. We've been involved with that with Fish, Wildlife and Parks. And we, what's the word? We cooperated, we made comments. I'm not quite sure why he pulled that one out specifically, but we addressed it and we do have some relation. And I just wanted to call it out for the fact it was kind of a different question and we did submit.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, it was one of the things that Hungry Horse did, you know, the operations were that we identified that part of the impacts of our river down here are associated with Hungry Horse. And it wasn't really included in BPA's mitigation package. And we had submitted that to Bonneville Power and tried to get them to address it multiple times, and they still have yet to address it. So maybe that's what they're talking about. I don't know.
Right, and I think that could be a good connection that he's making in that reference, because you're right, we haven't been taken care of in that way.
I have a comment about it.
Thing was that they cut our lot.
And we've yet to receive that mitigation from Bonneville. Yep, operational. Every day.
Next, he asked for some clarifications on our SKQ compliance section. And when you read this document, which is on our Teams channel, and I could bring a flash drive if you would like. Greg, I do have one with me. The fun part is in the what we did last year and what we're going to do next year. It's all the great projects that we do across the reservation. The more complicated and sometimes controversial part is the compliance section. And that really relates to all the dam operations and us trying to hold them accountable for changes in flows and things that they do. We've been here before to talk about some of those. I know we have some new members of council if we need to come back and have some of those discussions again. But this last year, because of Mr. Lewis's questions, we created a communication plan with SKQ EKI to be able to more formally have these conversations with them and to document them. And so when there's a deviation in license adherence, then EKI or Eve are supposed to communicate with us. We've got Brian Hoganson, Cody Goklish, and Craig Barfoot communicating with her to make sure that we keep those things open. And so there was a couple of questions that he was really kind of getting at, and one of our challenges has been separating that we're not the hydropower facility operators, we're the natural resources department mitigation monitors. And so it seems as we've gone through communications with him, he'll often push about operational questions. And we don't have those necessarily because we're not the operators. So my responses to some of his questions were, we're not the hydropower facility operators, but we will engage our deviation communication plan. I have sent those questions to EKI to potentially, if they choose, I guess, reply to them. So those were really the only, they're big questions, but they're the only questions that we had. The other one last year, or maybe the year before, was a grazing, what do we call it? The grazing, he wanted us to formalize when there was trespass cattle on our mitigation properties. So we more formally started recording all of those trespasses and then had a way to more formally communicate those with lands to say, hey, we're not supposed to have cows on these properties, please help. So that's another product that's come out in the last couple of years. And so now I'm going to let Craig talk a little bit about fish.
Okay, I'm just going to highlight a couple of the bigger programs that we do with SKQ mitigation. And Some of this might be redundant to the field trip that you were recently on, or some of you, and also with the native fish keepers presentation. But I'll just start with the migratory West Slope cutthroat trout conservation work we do, and that's in the Jocko River drainage. And as Whisper was alluding, the SKQ money allows us to go out for grants, and it integrates with other mitigations. And I think these big migratory cutthroat trout kind of exemplify that because they cross big jurisdictional boundaries in their migrations. We work off reservation on them at Thompson Falls and coordinate with other agencies. These things move over great distances to complete their life histories, and it's been a significant aspect of our work for many years. The Jocko supports the last remaining migratory population of these on the reservation, along with migratory bull trout. And as I said, we went over some of this on the field trip, and I'm going to revisit some of those areas. Let's see, how do we? Okay, yeah, just to kind of give the council an idea of the distances these fish move over. This is a fish that was radio tagged. We did a few studies on them, on movement studies earlier, and she was radio tagged up near the Upper S Canal and spent the summer after spawning there, and then rapidly moved to the base of the dam. And they use the river after they spawn and during the winter, and then when it warms up, they move back into the Jocko for thermal refuge because the river becomes too warm. But while they're out there, it's very productive habitat, and they grow to large sizes. They average 15 to 16 inches and can range as large as 24 inches. Just another figure to show you the vast distances these fish move over. This fish was pit tagged up near K Canal where the council field trip was earlier this year. And that and several others then were detected down at Thompson Falls and in the Thompson River when the Clark Fork warmed up. So these fish kind of integrate across a lot of different management areas, and I think they kind of exemplify work on a broader scale. For example, in the Jocko, there have been many pots of money and mitigation efforts to acquire land, to restore river channels, to put screens on irrigation diversions and provide ladders at diversions for fish passage. And these fish kind of integrate across all of that. And they're a species that's been in decline, especially this migratory form. And so there's a lot of effort regarding SKQ mitigation to conserve and enhance them. Okay. And as we visited on the field trip, this is where a lot of that management occurs, is at the K Canal diversion, which was a DUR and BIA irrigation infrastructure project. The diversion was failing. It was a hazard, and it was also a difficult place to manage for native fishes. That was rebuilt in 2023, and with a new fish ladder, fish screen, and from this point upstream in the Jocko is where a lot of the native fish management occurs. We only selectively pass these native cutthroat trout there because they can hybridize with rainbow trout, and then this diversion was purposely made a barrier so we could just selectively pass bull trout, native mountain whitefish, and cutthroat trout upstream of this point and try to maintain low levels of those rainbow trout genes in the population. Just a picture of the ladder entering the river. When this photo was taken, the flows were pretty low. And it's a 24-step ladder that leads to a trap box where we capture fish and then selectively pass the native fish upstream. These are some long-term data from that site, and the trend has been very encouraging. This year we're having perhaps not as high a run as last year, which was a record run, but it's still a good year for cutthroat trout there. We're probably going to approach about 200 of these big migratory fish. And I think they're just an indicator of the broader work the tribes have done in the drainage with restoration and other actions. Okay. Pause in my slide here. Okay. this kind of segues into another cooperative project that we did with the state of Montana. There was a rainbow trout population in Liberty Creek in the South Fork primitive area, and we knew that it posed a long-term threat to the West Slope cutthroat trout population, but we didn't have the kind of staffing expertise to undertake a project like this. And our state partners offered to help us, and they did it free of charge. And it was a very expensive project. We completed the second phase of that last year, and we were very successful. And what I'm showing here in the figure is, in the pie charts, is the proportion of rainbow trout ancestry upstream of the K Canal diversion, which is that barrier. So you can see mostly the pie charts are green with very little red, which I have is indicating rainbow trout ancestry, except for that Liberty Creek population, which was dribbling in on the South Fork and causing increased hybridization with those rainbow trout. So that project was successfully undertaken. It was a 2-year project done in the autumn, which is a little worrisome. It overlapped with hunting season, but we had great cooperation and coordination with the tribal membership, and I didn't hear anyone unhappy about the success of their hunt. As a matter of fact, some folks speculated we might have helped them out by being out in the meadows and driving some animals around, but that went off without a hitch. It was very successful. I've talked to the chairman about perhaps bringing our state partners in and recognizing them for their effort here. This summer, actually, after spawning, we've tested fish up near Burnt Cabin in the South Fork primitive area, and they came back pure. That's right below Crazy Fish Lake. And so we're going to reestablish cutthroat trout in Liberty Creek. We'll do our first reintroduction this year from that wild population, and we'll probably take a few years so we don't borrow too hard from that native population. And then we should have a safeguarded cutthroat trout population above a barrier waterfall, and they'll be coming down into the South Fork instead of rainbows.
Tom and then Greg.
Well, yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Craig and Whisper when the director comes. Maybe this would be one of those things that we would mention here in council with the director here. Put it on the agenda. Thank you.
Go ahead, Greg.
So, were you successful in removing all of the rainbow out of Liberty?
Yes,
So-
we were stunned by that, but we did eDNA, what's called eDNA sampling. It's an amazing new technique where you filter the water and then you can amplify what's on the filter to look for DNA of the animals you're interested in. And yeah, we got them. So and that was helpful in that if we hadn't gotten all of them, we thought we would need to swamp it harder just so the rainbows wouldn't get a kickstart on us again, a head start. But now we can take our time with these wild fish and just remove what we're comfortable with from that population we're going to borrow from and do it over a few years. And I'm quite confident that we'll be successful with that. So yeah, it's about 8 miles of stream above the waterfall barrier that will just have pure cutthroat trout in, and they'll be feeding down to the South Fork over time. So it's an exciting project, and those fish belong there, and we're glad that they can be there. Then I'll transition to the lake, another big effort of ours, and Barry Hansen, our long-term biologist, nearly 40 years with the tribes. He retired recently, but this was kind of, this was his life's work here, trying to maintain native fishes in Flathead Lake by reducing lake trout, introduced lake trout. And I'm showing this picture because it's the start of some work that he worked on along with Todd. First, there was the dock facilities that were put in, and then Barry worked on a grant to get this boat lift there, which will really help us out. We'll be able to access the lake at more variable levels in lake level. And also when we have a bad wind event like today, we can maybe get it out of harm's way. So I just wanted to bring that in. The big effort here is managing lake trout to benefit native fishes And these are kind of the trends through time. Last year was a record year for both the MAC Days event and the total harvest of lake trout, which approached our long-term goal for the first time of 143,000 fish. This year, we look to have another successful MAC Days event, which is very helpful. You'll see that in the orange. The spring and autumn events are really key to helping us manage the lake trout population. Here's what the trend in lake trout catches are on a per net basis. So we're seeing some declines, encouraging indicators. This is outside of a reporting period, but this spring we had good catches of West Slope cutthroat trout in our monitoring nets that we do along with the state across the lake, and they also had encouraging catches there. Bull trout, it's looking like they're staying stable but low, but in many areas of the state they're in an ongoing rapid decline. So we're at least encouraged by the low but stable numbers there. We're hoping to see a response soon in them. These are just some metrics from spring and fall gill netting that we do with the state across the lake. The tribes have a big effort in the autumn. That's a fall gill netting assessment. It's about 40 nets across the lake. The states do about half, the tribes do about half. And then there's a smaller state-led netting effort in the spring. And both of those are showing a decline in catches of lake trout over time. So we're encouraged by that and hopeful we'll start seeing a response in bull trout. Then this is transitions to some of the information that was presented earlier to the Tribal Council. An important part of this is the Native Fish Keepers Incorporated, where we try to process and sell lake trout to offset some of the costs of this effort. And right now, demand is exceeding supply. It's a very popular product, not only because of the messaging and the conservation value, but people enjoy it. So we've seen a decline in sales in the last couple of years, and that's largely because the population is generally now comprised of smaller fish. The population is responding to our efforts to reduce it. And so now we have to keep on top of those small fish. It's a challenge, but I talked to some folks in Ponderay and where they've been successful in their effort to benefit bull trout. And they said, well, when they start compensating, you have them on the run, so keep after it. So, but we're hoping to look at new ways of trying to offset some of the costs with some of the catch. Lynn has developed a relationship with the Billings Zoo, for example, and they're buying some of the really small fish that aren't suitable for filleting. And we're continuing to explore other markets there. And then just one last thing, wanted to talk about, Barry did some work on planning for some revisions at Salish Point in the dynamic beach. And really there was very little mitigation money used here, but it goes back to what Whisper had earlier said, is this mitigation money allows us to go after additional monies, matching monies. And Barry was awarded a fairly large grant. I think initially it might have come to another division within NRD, but Barry was able to put it to work here at Salish Point. And this is just some of the early planning that the mitigation monies helped pay for, but largely this was a grant effort, and that was undertaken this year. You'll probably see it in next year, the final product in next year's report. And that's all I have.
Passing it over to Carrie.
Got a question.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Craig, after last fall deal with the Liberty Meadows poisoning up there, did you ever get that meadow restocked?
That's what we'll undertake this spring, Bing. We'll be moving fish from by Burnt Cabin up to Liberty Creek. So those will be the native fish in there, and we'll just keep doing that over a few years, and they should take rather rapidly. So, yes.
It's almost summertime.
I'm sorry.
I said, it's almost summertime, spring.
I know.
also.
We're gonna go as soon as flows come down. We wanted to allow them to spawn up at Burnt Cabin first before we borrow them. And that seems to work out better in these translocation efforts, is let them spawn first, then bring them up, and then they seem to stick better. So that's what we're gonna do. Probably in July, we'll start that.
Okay. You know, you're talking about spawning. I was up at, Louis Lake the other day, and you just seen schools of fish swimming around the edge. So I don't know if I was telling my boy and him, I said, I don't know if they're spawning or what they're doing with big schools like that. We only caught one fish, and the only reason we caught him, we snagged it, you know, but there's just schools of them. And there also, this was the same way at Floyd Lake too, the same way. That's what I
Yeah.
heard. There's schools of them just swimming around the edges of lake.
They'll behave like that in lakes in the spring, and we're right. The Jocko fish, we're still seeing a few fish on the spawning run at K diversion, and the lakes are a little higher, and ice came off a little later up there, and so I'm guessing they're looking around for a place to spawn. Yeah, and they can be a little harder to catch then. I'm giving you a break too, so yeah. So.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chairman and Council. I will go through the wildlife updates, kind of giving an overview of our 2025 year. I like to start this presentation by showing kind of an annual survey, 30,000-foot view of what our program kind of does each year as far as surveying, and then I like to highlight which ones of those are tied specifically to the funding that we're talking about here today. So you can see a good portion of our program is funded under the SKQ mitigation. And so with that, you know, we do annually have big game flight surveys that we fly aerially. And so each year we have 5 to 6 different wildlife management units that are flown, at least 3 of them always occurring in that lower Flathead River corridor. Last year, we, in coordination with the Owl Research Institute and their volunteers, we surveyed 5 different routes across the Mission Valley, 5 different times. So once a month in 2025. And I'm not going to go over a lot of the results because we are a little short for time, but if there are any specific details or survey results that anyone is interested in, please let me know and I can make sure to get those over to you guys. We also fly bald eagles annually via winter surveys and then 2 spring and summers surveys as well. So last year we conducted our eagle nest surveys in April and June and documented 43 active nests that produced 78 juvenile bald eagles. We also survey for long-billed curlew in April and May. So we had 12 different routes that our biologists surveyed twice last April and May. And then we also have 2 annual. Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I saw an eagle nest in Ronan just at lunchtime. At the park, right across from Tribal Health in the park. Yeah. You got to go look at it. It's a playground equipment. There's 3 eggs in that nest.
I've been meaning to make it over there. I saw it from the road the other day, but I didn't know how to get there.
I'll get it figured out.
Oh, gosh. But yes, definitely stop me as I go through. Again, I'm trying to make up a bit of time, so I'm trying to blaze through it. But yeah, if you have questions, definitely stop me and I can chat more. We have 2 common loon surveys that we have every year, once in May and once in July. So we did observe 1 pair and 6 individuals last year with no nesting or breeding activity. But we are, you know, monitoring. There are a couple of lakes that we every year see some territorial behavior on. So we do make sure to continue to monitor those each year in case they were to produce a brood. We also conduct grassland bird surveys. We have 35 sites that we survey for a total of 50. And through those surveys, we had a total of 57 different bird species detected last year. One thing that I want to note is this is I think this will be our 3rd year surveying these. We kind of survey them in 3-year batches. And so one thing we've noticed this round of surveys is that there is starting to become evidence that habitats that were previously ag fields but have had significant restoration efforts conducted on them do have a higher native diversity of bird species than other surrounding ag fields that haven't had restoration efforts on them. So we are seeing a positive response to native bird species in those areas. And then we also conduct marsh bird surveys. We have 71 sites that are surveyed. We do have 5 specific species that we're targeting in these areas, and we did detect all 5 of those during last year's surveys. We also continue to monitor our trumpeter swan populations, as well as our nesting territories and successful fledged cygnets. So we had 19 different territories or nests last year produce about 58 cygnets. We are starting to see when avian influenza hit us in about 2021, 22, we did see a significant kind of decrease in that fledgling or cygnet production, as well as adult survival. We saw a lot more adult mortalities. We are starting to see the adults starting to survive a bit more. Now that avian influenza is kind of on the down curve, but we're still seeing a little bit of a lag in those cygnets coming back. So we're going to kind of keep monitoring that and make sure that they rebound as well. We last year presented to over 26 different public groups, collectively reaching over 900 participants. One of the things we really focus on and promote during these outreach events are the importance of habitat restoration and management, as well as really emphasizing wildlife education in order to decrease that human-wildlife conflict. So we're increasing knowledge of cultural values, language, and local wildlife species, relaying why wildlife behave the way that they do in order to help prevent those conflicts on the front end. We also do a lot of our human-wildlife conflict research and management. We have bear safety and awareness programs. We have bear spray inert cans of bear spray. We conduct trainings for the public and other tribal programs so that folks can get comfortable and used to using bear spray and get experience, pulling off the cap and what it feels like to dispense the bear spray. We also have a bear resistant garbage can loaner program. So we have distributed over 370 cans over the last handful of years through this program, and we still have some available. So if you see our press releases out there, we're still trying to get those cans out to folks who self-haul their garbage. The other side of our program is a lot of it is in relation to wildlife habitat restoration. So we did plant about 561 shrubs and trees last year across our different wildlife mitigation properties. We did conduct 1 prescribed burn on Kicking Horse, and then we sprayed 270 acres for various weed infestations. And then I also wanted to just introduce Art, and do we have our bullfrog crew? Nope. Okay, didn't make it. Okay, so we have been partnering with FWP and Montana Conservation Corps over the last few years to do some bullfrog eradication in the Mission Valley. We do know that they are in the lower Flathead River, but we did a few years ago have a detection in a private pond in the Mission Valley. And so we've been working with them to study that, try to eradicate as much as possible. And right now, with our goal now has switched from eradication to just maintaining the spread so that they don't spread to our reservoirs and other areas in the Mission Valley. Because we're unlikely to fully eradicate the populations, but we do think we can keep the spread under control with these continued efforts. And then that is all that I had. Questions? Yep.
When those kids are down there catching those bullfrogs on the river, do they kill them or I would, yeah.
Yeah, we are physically removing the adults, and then we're removing egg masses as well. So they're doing surveys along the river and the wetlands and private ponds in the Mission Valley, and they're trying to remove them before the eggs hatch.
We had a friend who had a video where they picked up a bullfrog and you can kind of see on here, it's got this big tympanic membrane. It's got a big circle on the side of its head, so you can tell it's a bullfrog. And they were like riding four-wheelers all over the river. They carried this frog with them all day. They were like, woohoo, this frog and the four-wheelers. And then they let the frog go somewhere else where it hadn't even been. So we don't want the spread of bullfrogs. If the kids grab them, if they have that circle on the head, try to remove them from the population.
Do cats eat frogs? Can I feed them to the cats or something? I don't know.
Did you say, are we catching them and eating them, or?
I'll just feed them to the cats.
Yes, the cats might eat them.
Then it's a circle of life. Then I don't feel like
That's fine.
killer.
Totally
Okay.
understand. We had a barbecue last year and one of our biologists brought the legs and fried them up and I didn't do it.
Gosh, I guess my last question is on the bear spray. I guess we've got one down off of, I don't remember if it's 200 or 212, but close to town down there. I've got about 10, 15 people walking those tracks back and forth every day. And is there a way to get with somebody for some extra cans of bear spray for them?
So you can purchase from our office a can of bear spray for $20 with the purchase of a recreation conservation license, or if you a tribal member, if they show their tribal ID, they can pick up those cans at our office, and we always try to make sure that they're available.
I don't know. I'll maybe ask McKenna, or Disaster and Emergency Services, if she has any funding for something like that, to be able to get bear spray in a couple hands of people. You're right on the riparian zone. There's bears moving back and forth. We don't want an accident for sure with the bear. So trying to find some deterrent would be good.
Yeah, I just worry. They said there's a grizzly down there. There's a trap set, but with the number of people on foot, that's my worry. They're going right through down in the trees. It's a homeless population, but I'd rather arm them than not arm them.
Next, I'll go through the next couple really quick. These are folks that weren't able to be here today. One is our wildland recreation crew. They've been doing a lot of work with our SKQ dollars. They maintain the park we unofficially call Big Crane Park below Super One Foods. If anybody ever wants us to call that something different, Tom, I don't know, has anybody called it a different name? Big Crane Park it is. It's one of 7 lake access sites that we provide periodic and seasonal maintenance for. And of course, that administrative and oversight of the grounds at Blue Bay Campground, some of the funding there is tied to SKQ dollars. This is a picture from the day use site along the Flathead River that was Hoskins Landing. We don't own the boat launch anymore, but we still have authority and oversight of the rest of that park and that little pullout. So the crew moved with Mr. Pitts's permission. We removed the little structure that we had built on his land and moved it over onto our land and kind of fixed it up and put some more tables and stuff. So that's in Shalip. Yep.
Thank you guys for that. Thank you for keeping it mowed. It's a heavily used recreation area and people have really enjoyed it and they're trying to keep it clean, which really excites me, is they're taking some ownership to it. And I hope they're doing their part to make it easier on your team, but we truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you. We're also they do fencing on mitigation properties. So when we have fish or wildlife mitigation properties, they'll do some of the maintenance, mowing the parking lots, taking out some dead trees, helping with the fencing. And also, of course, just like all of our programs, participate in the annual river honoring to educate kids and adults on how to be safe. And again, we still have that borrow and return kiosk that Todd had got a grant from the CTO Foundation a few years back. If you go there in the summer, those life jackets are all over the place. Kids are wearing them, they're using them. That is the intended purpose. So we're still pretty excited to see that. And they were a big part of that men's health fishing derby, which this may have been the last year for. It kind of sounds like Dewar's going to be starting to mobilize some of their work there this year, but we had a record 200+ people attended this year. So it really grew and now it's going to end. But it was a good way to try to do the men's health fair and tie it to fishing. And we have partnered with American Rivers to get those river cleanup bags out. We got our logo on those. We paid money to help pay for those, and we pass those out. They often are gone. It's hard to keep those in the office. Our aquatic invasive species, we're always out there trying to make sure that they don't get into our lake. In 2025, they inspected 18,364 watercraft and decontaminated 1,034 fouled with plants, mud, and water. We do really good work with FWP, which will also make sure we note with the director when she comes. We have a lot of coordination with those guys that makes all of our jobs easier. And they do a muscle walk with students. They couldn't at Salish Point this year because we were fixing it up. So we did offset one of those. They'll continue to do that work in 2027. And also a note that we're still working on Eurasian water milfoil treatments at Pablo. I&E, we've been in full swing with the river honoring post-COVID. Things are going well down there. We're hitting around 1,000 students over the 2 days. Lake honoring, they only do high school students. That's a little lower level. And I think because Yellow Bay campground was out of commission last year, we had a little lower level. Our outreach and education partner at FWP resigned, so we have a new person to build that relationship with. But Steph does all that work and will continue to do so in 27. And she did get those apps updated. She worked with Salish Kootenai College and their climate change hub who had some funding to update the software. When you do really cool things like the app that was created quite a few years ago by Jermaine, the technology evolves and changes and you have to rebuild these things from scratch occasionally. And that's where we were with that. Our game wardens were up to full staff. Thank you very much for your support and the funding for those guys. 2 of the wardens are supported out of the SKQ budget. They do work all over the reservation, but they do also focus on the river when needed. And all of the wardens help with the AIS inspection station. So I think that we're planning to come do a game warden update to you all after the half of the year is over. So you'll be seeing us for a game warden update very soon. And do you have any questions? So what will happen is we'll have questions and then I have a letter to sign and then I'm gonna ship this report off to FERC and BIA for them to approve this and give us our money for next year.
Go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a couple issues to bring up with you. I had a lady a week ago, this last Sunday, had a lion on her porch and she killed a cat. And then the following Wednesday, she was back again. And she's pretty scared of that mountain lion. I guess she used a rubber bullet on him and I chased him off the first time around, but second time she didn't hit him, I guess. But first time she kind of hit him a little bit and he ran off. But he's been there a couple of times and she's getting pretty scared of it. And she tried to call a game warden to come up and check up it. You know, they're not going to stick around all day waiting for a game warden to be there, you know. So yeah, he's been there twice to visit her. So she's getting pretty scared about it. It's Mrs. Schultz. She lives up at Shalai Home Sites up there. And the other one is we was up at Louis Lake Sunday, and a tree mashed a picnic table. Yeah, so there's no picnic table there anymore. And also the toilet, it got hit too on top. It knocked off part of the roof off on top of that, and we had to and kind of moved it over from the hole, so we set it back on the hole. We got it up right there, but you know, part of the roof and stuff is gone. It's going to have to be replaced.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question, kind of one of my constant questions. At what point do we know if an area is overpopulated with deer? And I'm just thinking of the kind of the area I'm in all the time, St. Ignatius area, you're just seeing lots of, a lot of dead deer from, hit by a car, what have you. And I'm just kind of wondering, what's that threshold of an area being able to sustain a deer population? I don't know if you all measure it by how many deer per square mile or what have you, but it just seems like they're getting hit on the different roads in the area that I live and drive. And then they're off in the fields dying. And I hear that consistently from tribal folks and non-tribal folks that, we're not quite sure what to do. We do the whole process of calling the right folks, but then that's not always immediate. So then you have the raptors or the pterodactyls, as Tom maybe have seen earlier today. But what are some of the advice I can give to some of those folks? And my neighbor lady she's not a crazy lady, but she does have a bunch of cats, and it's a predominant area of where the raptors are and the eagles are in the trees above their place. But also you see them on the different carcasses, and pretty much I can tell where the carcasses are because then you see the buzzards flying around up above. So either my uncle's field or the neighbor's field or up and down Mission Dam Road or Airport Road or St. Mary's Lake Road, you often see, you can kind of tell where the carcasses are. But my primary question is that what's the threshold of an area for the number of deer in that area? And, I don't know, just kind of that.
So there are two different carrying capacities, and it sounds like you're talking about the social carrying capacity. There is a environmental carrying capacity, which is based off of how many animals can live in an area without degrading or damaging the habitat. But then there's also the social carrying capacity of what are we as people willing to tolerate. And that's a lot more difficult to manage as far as what recommendations. The biggest one is having tribal members harvest does. That's one of our biggest challenges, but that's the really only solution to addressing a lot of those concerns.
Potentially too, some of the attractants around those folks' house. I know apple trees are the legacy of the Mission Valley, and if they have a lot of those apples, I think it's going to be hard in the foothills of the missions with those side roads where people can be flying down those roads are paved, right? And at night, you can, even during the day, you can be smucking out a deer. And we, specifically when we had EWM, is that the word? Yep. EHD take over last year with all the deer that were dying from those midges. We don't have the capacity to pick up all the dead deer. It's just not something we can do. And so raptors eating them, bears eating them is kind of some of the challenges and the avenues that we have. Even the Department of Transportation won't appropriately handle their deer carcasses because they don't have enough money in their maintenance budget to pick up all the deer on the side of the road. You can't believe how much of a headache it is with those folks, and they don't want to pay to take them where they need to. So it's an overall challenge, but Carrie's right about the social carrying capacity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Craig, is there an opportunity when you're doing the restocking slowly of Liberty? Is there a possibility of getting some fish up in Lake Salasouth from that same supply?
To put some in Solitude?
In Salasouth, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I've never been to Solitude, Tom.
Well, it's Salasouth.
Salasouth, okay, that's what
It's above,
yeah.
it's above Crazy Fish. It's a big lake up there on the divide. Fish get really big when you put them in there, but there's no spawning. There's no, at high water, it can discharge down into the creek, but it's always been an issue about stocking it.
Yeah, I've come across older references of fish being moved into that they far exceed the lifespan of a fish. And I know that people are still reporting them. So there must be some limited reproduction, but I know the earlier evaluations, discussed the lack of much suitable spawning habitat. So, and those were initially moved from crazy fish.
Yeah, by foot.
So something like that could be done again from crazy fish to sawtooth. And I guess my recommendation would to not be to move them from down near Burnt Cabin, because we found that fish aren't distributed all the way up to crazy fish to the outlet. So there's a break there, and I'd soon keep crazy fish.
That was my
separate.
question.
Yeah.
Whether or not those fish in the main stem would be
Yeah.
applicable to put into Salisu.
Yeah, I'd rather go from crazy fish to Salisbury, I think would be, and we could look at.
I love the crazy fish everywhere. So as far as I'm concerned, you
Yeah.
can take the ones that are crazy fish and put them in Liberty also.
Yeah,
So those fish,
Yeah.
you literally have to hide behind a tree to bait your hook.
yeah,
They're,
yeah.
they're the most beautiful cutthroat.
I'm sure it's connected at times and that these fish are really strongly related. And there's never, to my knowledge, been any hatchery fish above that barrier, bedrock slide there on your way up. And that's where bull trout stop too. And we've never found any rainbow trout ancestry up there. So I'm sure those are the original fishes, but, yeah, we could look at that. Sorry, I misheard you. I was like, Solitude, where?
Salisu.
Yeah. Yeah, that's worth looking at, but I have had recent reports of people catching fish there. So they must pull off some limited reproduction, but yeah, I don't know how.
They would have to be in the lake.
Yeah.
And just,
But I've never seen it, to be truthful, so.
Other questions? We gotta accept the report, do we?
Accept the report and approve me to send the letter to BIA and PERC.
Motion by Jamie to accept the report and forward the letter. Second by Bing. All in favor? We're unanimous.
Thank you, and don't forget to let me know if you're going on the float next week. Nope, next Wednesday. Oh, good, I'm glad I said something. You'd have been just sitting in Polson, jumped on a raft. That's okay, that probably take you.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder, yeah, that's next Wednesday, and then Monday and Tuesday is the homeless strategic planning, so.
Thank you.
Can we go into executive?
Go out of regular into executive. Well, with that, I guess, McKenna, you better get started.
Yeah, no pressure. I'll keep it as brief as possible, as always. But good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. I think perhaps Mr. Steele and I haven't met necessarily in person, so I just want to reintroduce myself in case it's helpful. My name is McKenna Andrews. I'm the Disaster and Emergency Services Coordinator for the tribes, located in the Natural Resources Department, Division of Environmental Protection. And I'm here today because the last time I visited, we spoke about if an incident occurs, it would be appreciated to come to the council afterwards to just discuss what happened and talk about things to consider for the future. So that's predominantly why I'm here today, is just to talk about the flooding incident that happened at the end of May and early June. Last week, we did have 2 FEMA Region 8 representatives visiting the reservation. So I had initially also put in a request for them to have the opportunity to introduce themselves. They are not here with me today. They have the opportunity perhaps to come back. So if that's of interest, or the next time they might be swinging through, if it's a Tuesday and Thursday, I might try to have you meet them again. Largely because last week we had our tribal liaison, Nicole Edwards, for Region 8 visiting from Denver. And she's going to be in the state of Montana for actually kind of up to a month in duration because of all the intense weather events that have caused damages across the reservations of Montana. So she might definitely be back. It would just be nice for you to meet her. She's been in the role a long time, and she's a really excellent communicator and good resource. So it's just nice for you guys also to have a face to the name if she can be introduced. Secondly, we also had Michelle Hausman, who is also from FEMA Region 8 last week, and she is our designated program delivery manager for the disaster that officially was declared by the state of Montana in December, that December 17th windstorm. Michelle is assigned to CSKT to help us with that damage assessment. We have until early July, and we're working with Mission Valley Power and now SCAHA as well regarding damages that they received that might be eligible for FEMA reimbursement. So just wanted to put that on your radar, that that is a process that's still very much so going on. I don't mean to entirely derail myself from talking about flooding, but I did not want to leave today without just noting that for your records. And if anyone has questions about that, I'm more than happy to go deeper. In regards to that public assistance process, it is pretty multifaceted. But given that we have a new grandson of a council member who has just been born this afternoon, I want to make sure that we have enough time to just briefly touch on the flooding events and for me to answer any questions you might have. So to give you a really quick recap, first and foremost, I know that spring runoff in any area with a high mountain range nearby is a normality at this time of year. However, it is my understanding that the extensive rain event that we had just hanging out over us, circulating for days on end, was a little bit more rainfall than we typically get this time of year or just in general. So it really started in the late evening of May 28th when we had a call from a resident in Mission who was worried that there could be something wrong with Mission Dam just because they were noticing a lot of runoff. And it was from that evening on Thursday, May 28th, that I started working with FIP for the first time. I did not have at that point a contact directly with FIP, and now I'm very intimate with understanding their staffing and their resources. But on that evening, which was first alerting us that, you know, this rain was starting to pile up in Mission Reservoir specifically, we had FIP go out and check the dam. It was normal, it was just full. And the following days, it was just more and more rain. So we really started noticing Mission and Post Creek grow first. And that was really largely Friday and Saturday, and nothing too overwhelming or out of the ordinary. But we were really trying to be as proactive as possible into thinking what could come next, what impacts there were, that there could be. And we were working closely with the National Weather Service office. We have wonderful representatives in Missoula who are available via phone 24/7 if we need a specific impact idea for our region. So they were pulling forecast modeling just for us, which was really beneficial in helping us understand what to expect. So Saturday was actually pretty quiet that weekend. I definitely expected that would have been a more eventful day because we were expecting a lot of rain that Saturday. Of course, even with forecast modelings, Mother Nature does what she pleases. And so we were just trying to be ready to roll with whatever occurred. But largely Hungry Horse and SKQ Dam, I was having conversations with both of those entities on that Saturday, and everyone was just kind of in this holding pattern. On Sunday, we really started to see more rain effects, especially with Agency Creek and Finley Creek down in the Arlee region, which are uncontrolled. FIP does not have the access directly to affect their flows, but we were monitoring those as well, and we recognized at least some flooding in floodplains, but not yet affecting roadways. But then by Sunday evening, we really started to see heavy flows in North Crow Creek that was directly affecting the Pablo feeder canal on the south side of Polson. And that was our kind of first big incident with the flooding. We noticed actually FIP had gone to check on the condition of the Pablo feeder canal after we had a dispatch call regarding a resident on Minesinger Trail, just on the north edge of Pablo here, who their property is right next to North Crow, and they were just getting flooded out. Their road was getting taken out. So I was on the way to Polson Rural to get some sandbags for this resident, and that is when it became known that the Pablo feeder canal was way too high. It was breaching its container wall, and it became a multi-agency effort to keep that from becoming disastrous and flooding out kind of the valley space and the concrete and gravel business that's just down the road. So Polson Rural Fire came to our aid greatly. They had sandbags. We got sand and gravel from the nearby Glacier Company, and alongside the help Polson City Fire alongside Polson Rural Fire dispatched their volunteers to come and fill sandbags. We even had some search and rescue staff show up. And for about 5 to 6 hours, we were sandbagging, trying to plug the holes that were leaking out of the Pablo Feeder Canal. And we were working very closely with FIP. Of course, FIP was on site, and the kindness and generosity of Glacier Gravel and Sand helped us with pulling up truckloads of dirt and gravel to, again, keep that canal from absolutely wreaking havoc in the valley down here. So we made it by the skin of our teeth, I think. I think we lucked out with, even though we were getting a lot of rain, we still could have gotten more. By Monday, we were still seeing a lot of impacts, largely in Crow and Post Creeks. Of course, Dublin Gulch is an area that is pretty regularly affected when Post Creek gets high, and I know Bev's Bloomers feels the pain and agony of when Crow Creek gets high. But you know, we were very aware of the situation due to Doers monitoring systems and FIP's round-the-clock efforts and communication. We knew in advance when things were going to get rough, so we always just tried to communicate openly and regularly, reliably to the public when we knew something was one of the creeks or canals were going to get higher than perhaps manageable or typical. So that is largely the timeline. I mean, by Tuesday, which would have been June 2nd, we were almost at a tipping point because we were still expecting more rain, and the creeks, specifically Crow and Post, were definitely affecting Highway 93. Montana Department of Transportation was close to having to detour those areas just to keep the stability of the bridges. So we are very lucky that we did not get more rain on Tuesday, just because it would have become even more intense as far as just trying to mitigate potential damages. So in a nutshell, we survived. In hindsight and in reflection, FIP did a wonderful job communicating with us. Doer did a wonderful job being collaborative and sharing all of their wonderful monitoring resources and tools online. And we could not have survived that Pablo Canal potential disaster without the help of Polson Rural Fire and Polson City Fire and the search and rescue volunteers. So that in a nutshell is, I would say, a recap of the flooding incident we experienced at the end of May and early June. I was definitely, especially on that Tuesday when we weren't sure if Highway 93 was going to be officially impacted, I was ready to try to open an emergency operations center for the first time. Our current plans for the reservation state that if we open an emergency operations center, it would be in this building. I personally don't know what room we would use for that. An emergency operations center should be a place where multi-agency leaders can get in one space to prioritize resources, navigate which resources need to be ordered and where they need to be staged and moved to, what other support is needed for the first responders on a scene. So I think that is one of the main things we will need to update in our emergency plans moving forward, is where exactly that emergency operations center would take place. I was planning on just temporarily hosting it at Division of Fire with their blessing, but not only do we need a location designated in the future, but we need staffing. So designated individuals who are ready to step up when an emergency operations center needs to be officially initiated. The other consideration, again, from this flooding event is just further need to understand our processes for how we would officially declare an emergency through CSKT. I've learned through Sanders County recently that they do have a one-page template letter that they update as needed, and then their top council member signs that and dates it when an emergency is officially declared. So I figured that might be a process we would choose to move forward with, and I'd work with Chairman Dolson. As the challenge is not knowing, if that's the process we want moving forward. We can play around with that, but making sure that I know the best way to get that to you, whether physically in person or by email, is okay. That is a document that doesn't have to be signed by like hour one of an emergency by any means. It's just a matter of getting that on record, because it can open doors when we have that official statement from our governing board. We could get mutual aid start to be pulled in, or even further support from the state or FEMA. So that's just a consideration to have. This event also has showed the potential need for further training. I don't know if anyone on the council has incident command system training, if that's something you'd be interested in. Councilmember McDonald does. Incident command system, for those of you who aren't aware, is this very typical nationwide structure for the most efficient emergency response structure. And the purpose of having it nationwide and standardized is so that we all have a shared terminology and, it can be replicated across different types of incidents, whether it's fire or law enforcement led. It's a really great structure. It's really worthwhile training to have. It really opened my eyes to emergency response and efficiency. And we could look into getting a training specifically for council members and other policymakers that you would all be working with if an incident ever got to a higher level. So those are my considerations. Sorry for all of this information. I know I just talked your ears off. I do have a few other things I can mention while I'm here just to make the best use of your time, but without getting too far into other subjects. Does anyone have questions or comments about the flooding incident? As you're thinking, I do also want to mention, because I forgot that we did not have any displaced individuals or homes as far as I'm aware, not that I heard of. There were definitely some needs for sandbagging, and we did our best to supply those as we were hearing about properties that were being affected, but there was not a need to open a shelter as far as I was aware, so.
So, several decades ago, we were working on a disaster preparedness plan. So a lot of the questions that you just asked led me to believe that that plan no longer exists and we need to perhaps update it. Is that kind of where we're at?
Yes, a lot of our emergency plans, they exist, but they were last written or updated in 2010. And they have such ambiguous language that it's just very open to interpretation when certain actions should take place, such as opening that emergency operations center and who has the authority to officially do so, and what are kind of our triggers for when we feel that it's appropriate. So the plans, they exist, they just need a lot of updates, in my opinion. Language that would be a lot clearer and agreed upon so that we're not playing with guesswork in the moment.
And would that include not only how we would mobilize here locally, but the upstream communications with FEMA or whatever?
Those plans definitely could have a communication aspect, absolutely. What I'm referring to is our emergency operation plans, and they are largely what we do here locally. We could include communicating upwards to FEMA or other entities, or that could be its own separate plan. So that we can make it however we want to see it fit. Yeah.
We need both, right?
Both would be preferred. The more planning, the more prepared we are for anything that comes our way. So absolutely.
I just want to say thank you for the communication, received the emails and was able to follow along. And it's just that peace of mind, I guess, for me. So I just really appreciate the communication. I guess just the last 2.5 years, we didn't really hear much from disaster emergency services, and we get to see your happy face in here and you really working hard for our people. And I just wanted to say I truly appreciate that. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for the very kind words. And something I guess I kind of left out, and I'll just keep again very brief, is that throughout the flooding incidents, as things were changing, I myself do not necessarily have authority to alert the public. That is something that Lake County officially does through their HyperReach emergency notification system. And we've had internal conversations at CSKT about whether we want to duplicate our own, or I know that we have Rave for internal employees. And we ultimately decided we didn't want to accidentally create mixed messaging by having our own public system. And so we have been relying on Lake County's HyperReach notifications. And the first 2 times I had reached out to Lake County during this flooding incident, initially on Friday when we knew that Mission and Post Creeks were going to get high compared to their usual runoff rate for this time of year, or just how quickly it was coming. On Friday and on Saturday, or it might have been Friday and Sunday, Lake County Office of Emergency Management was very collaborative in getting some messaging put out. And then as we started to notice more impacts on Monday, and at that time over the weekend, I was really just largely reaching out to Chairman Dolson and giving updates to leaders that I work the most closely with in this world. I wasn't pushing out things to everyone yet, but by Monday, I had again asked Lake County, hey, can we push out another notice that things are changing in this way? And he, Mark Clary, who works for Lake County Office of Emergency Management, he knows his system, he knows what's appropriate. He was like, no, I think people understand what's happening. We don't need to give more information. But I felt upon myself that peace of mind is worth everything. And I'd rather be a little extra communicative, not in any way that's freaking anyone out, just to give a status update to let you know what to expect and what's the current forecast? How is that going to impact our region? That's why I started just moving to the everyone email and saying, you know what, if I have a doubt in my mind, I'd rather let people know. So thank you for bringing that up, because if there's any tweaking that we should do there as well, I'm very receptive.
I just wanted to thank you too for the communication and like things like, you know, like we get alerts on our phones, like about the wind advisory today. Like, how do we check whether it's really going to impact this area or not?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think I've also been kind of using our email channel streams for those purposes. When I have a doubt, I'd rather just let people know. We've had wind events in the last year, specifically in mid-March and in mid-December, that were stronger than what we're going to encounter today. So part of me is almost hesitant, oh, should I still let everyone know that today we're going to have another high wind advisory? It could be gusty, but it isn't expected to get as windy as March and December did. But you know, I largely rely on National Weather Service Office, Missoula. I'm not a meteorologist. I'm just trying to pass along information whenever our region is specifically under an advisory or a watch for any reason, especially if it could be a weather event that impacts power or the safety of transportation. That's kind of been my rule of thumb. But if you see the email that I recently sent out, I did link the National Weather Service Office Missoula page. You might consider checking that regularly, or the other option is to really get registered for those emergency notifications through the county in which you live. So if you're not in Lake County, Sanders County, Missoula County, Flathead County, they each have their own system they use, which is a little unfortunate that it's not standardized among the counties, but I can give anyone help to registering for those. If an alert for the weather is specifically really severe, you'll get notified through those systems. You're supposed to. But otherwise, I personally just like to stay up to date with National Weather Service Office Missoula. I hope that answered your question.
I guess I like hearing what you had to say, but is there any way you could like write up a little blurb with like the different links for the different counties and maybe coordinate with Rob? So that way we can inform the membership on, hey, if you want to get local alerts, go here, just to get the information out there for them.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very easy to do. Happy to do that. And, you know, it is a lot of information to keep on top of. I totally recognize that. So I think I will continue to put something out publicly when I'm like, this is something I would want to know, or I just feel like it's better to share than not share. But otherwise, those are the two main resources that I think are really beneficial. There is also a FEMA app. And yesterday was the first time that my FEMA app directly notified me about a weather alert. And so I thought, oh, wow, this is definitely worth putting out to the everyone email, because I'm seeing that exact wind alert through my FEMA app. It came up as a push notification. So that is another resource. But yes, I'm happy to write up a summary.
Other questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a question. Before you came, your predecessor was T-boned in his vehicle out here on Pablo Pass. Did you ever get a replacement vehicle for that, or did you get a vehicle, period?
Yes, we do have a disaster and emergency services truck. It is a 2024 F-150, and it's labeled. So I have red stripes and CSKT disaster and emergency services on all sides except for the front, so that you can see me coming. It's official.
Yeah, I was just making sure you actually got one after seeing it T-boned here on the pass. We didn't even hear about it till afterwards. The other thing I was going to ask, do you go to the municipalities? Do you go to city councils at all to talk with those folks? And if you haven't, go to Mission City Council at some point?
I have been before. I think the only city council I've missed is Ronan. And I went to those really early on when I was hired just to introduce myself. I'd been to St. Ignatius's pretty early on. So I am always happy to go again. It just hasn't really come up recently. We haven't like figured out any sort of like regular visitation schedule, but I've been before.
Appreciate it.
Most definitely. I think it's important.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. McKenna, you're a breath of fresh air. I gotta tell you what we've been dealing with. So I would encourage you to update the plans as quick as possible as you can. Yeah, things change, buildings change, opportunities change. As far as the staff within the tribes, in some staff PDs, there's actually a requirement for them to do work like this. So I don't know if there's a way you can do a global search on that or talk to personnel, but that would be one course filter to find out who you'd want to express in operational plans of personnel would be in their position descriptions. And some people avoid it, kind of keep it secret, but it's in their PD.
That's a really great piece of insight. Thank you.
Yeah, I've had to use that. Hey, it's in your PD,
Yeah.
You can't run from this. Come on, help out.
Definitely, especially when it's expertise that I can't pretend to fill. So that'll be helpful.
Any other questions or thought? Appreciate the report.
Yes, absolutely. If you want something different, I know metrics would be nice in the future. So that's something I'm trying to improve on is to have more story mapping and things for you to look at, visuals, because I know when the story and the timeline and the information is just being regurgitated out, it'd be nice to have something to look at. So I hope to have something more like that hopefully there's not a next time too soon, but if there's another time down the road. Just while I'm here, I also just wanted to mention that, these disasters, these events that could have impact to CSKT facilities, equipment, personnel, with overtime hours. If we hit a threshold, for example, during this flooding event of $100,000 in damages, we can go directly to FEMA and declare that as an official disaster and request reimbursement. So those are the types of resources we're trying to finalize and better understand those processes in the DES discipline so that entities like Mission Valley Power and SCAHA that I'm working with right now, that they don't have to just swallow those costs when federal support is supposed to be paying back those resources. So that's something we're working on and something to just be mindful of as council members. If you are hearing CSKT official entities that did experience damages, I'm trying to get out and meet everyone and make sure other people know this information. But if you hear anything and could pass it along, I'm most appreciative.
Thank you, McKenna.
Great. Well, thank you all for your time this afternoon. It won't be the last time you hear from me. I have more updates to share, but I think that's enough information for one late afternoon.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
And before everybody gets out of here, we do have one little piece here. Mel is looking to set up interviews for some of the boards that were advertised. And the one gaming commissioner position was that we only got one application from the incumbent, Leslie Trahan. And she's wondering if you want to interview or just reappoint. Sorry, Leslie Trahan. 3-year term. She's been on, yeah. Any objection to just reappointing?
He has been on there.
Let's. I don't think so. Reappoint by consensus. Anything else for the good of the day? There's the motion. Thank you all.